What are we discussing on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast? Is Tommy Henry cooked in the battle for the number 5 starter? Is the NL West the best division in Major League Baseball? And we got our updated rotation rankings in the NL West.
You are Locked on Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? Always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas. I'm a multimedia journalist and I'm a graphic designer, so please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com to see all of my latest work. Spring training is still chugging along as we get closer to the regular season, which is now officially 2 weeks away. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, you can see on my wall that I finally have a little decor. I have the NL Champions poster behind me, so that will be up for the remainder of the season. Sometimes I like to do little bits that don't stick too long. Like, remember the bobbleheads? They're still all right next to me on my desk, but just too hard to set them up on the table as I do this podcast. So yeah, decor up for the rest of the regular season. Regular season only 2 weeks away. We are slowly getting closer. But of course, before you get to the regular season, you have to go through spring training. And we'll be talking about Tommy Henry's start on Thursday and his chances of still winning the job for the number 5 starter in the D-backs rotation. But of course, thank you for making Locked on Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. Like I said, one of those platforms is YouTube, so please hit subscribe to Locked on Diamondbacks on YouTube. Now let's talk about Tommy Henry's start on Thursday, because Tommy Henry came into spring training as probably the leader for the number 5 job in the D-backs rotation. And through his first couple outings, it looked like he was going to cement and potentially lock down that job in the rotation. But over his last 3 outings, Tommy Henry has struggled to the tune of 13 runs on 22 hits, 4 walks, and 5 strikeouts over his last 8 2/3 innings pitched. Has not been pretty for Tommy Henry, and the struggles continued on Thursday because he gave up 5 runs, 6 hits, 2 walks, 2 hit batters, and 1 strikeout. Tommy Henry has been struggling big time recently, and you can just see it in the numbers. You can see it in the eye test. He talks about how he has not been executing at the level he wants to be in these spring training outings recently. He is not making the pitches he wants to make. Again, a lot of times pitchers are just trying to work on their stuff in spring training. But for a guy like Tommy Henry, you have to work on your pitches and also pitch effectively. You can't just be Zach Gallen or Merrill Kelly where it's like, yeah, I'm just working on my stuff. I don't care if I give up 3-4 earned runs because we know what I can do once we get to the regular season. Tommy Henry has to work on his pitches, improve his arsenal, and also execute effectively on those pitches he's working on, because he is in a battle for the number 5 starter. So when you look at a guy like Ryan Nelson, who has been working on his secondary and tertiary pitches, and that fastball looks to be getting better. He's working on his arsenal and he's putting up good results. Right now, Tommy Henry is only giving us half of that. He had 27 swings on Thursday and only produced 2 whiffs. The numbers were just not there for Tommy Henry in this most recent outing. Now you have to ask yourself the question of, is Ryan Nelson running away with this number 5 starter job? I think Ryan Nelson is definitely in the lead. We've talked recently about how it still might be close, how it still might be 1A Tommy Henry, 1B Ryan Nelson. I think you can put all those rumors to bed right now. It is definitely now Ryan Nelson's job to lose with how he's looked recently compared to Tommy Henry. I mean, you could even say maybe Tommy Henry's sliding down in this competition. Like, is he all of a sudden behind a Slade, or is he behind a Bryce Jarvis? I don't know if those things are true, but it's definitely Ryan Nelson in the lead for that number 5 job right now. Tommy Henry has just been struggling too much in his recent outings, has not been looking good. Meanwhile, Ryan Nelson continues to just put together solid outings. Maybe not everyone is elite, but he has had no bad outings, and he continues to rack up the strikeouts and the Ks with each outing he has. So Ryan Nelson, I would definitely say, is in the lead for the number 5 starter job right now for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And then some other notes from Thursday's game. Bryce Jarvis is someone that has struggled for the D-backs this spring training, mostly because of one outing where he got rocked for like 8 earned runs. But he showed us on Thursday why he's still in the camp, why he hasn't been reassigned yet back to the minors, and why he still has a chance at making an impact with the D-backs this season, and why there's still a pathway for Bryce Jarvis to make an impact with the D-backs this season, because he showed you on Thursday he still has potential as a back-end starter or a long reliever for the D-backs. He's still a righty that could throw to the mid to potentially upper 90s when he's right. 3.1 innings on Thursday, 2 hits, no earned runs, 5 strikeouts. Looked really good against the Kansas City Royals. Bryce Jarvis is still not someone I'm completely writing off. Maybe he's not going to win the number 5 starter job. Maybe he's not going to be a top end rotation guy or be, even considered a FOT level prospect. But I think Jarvis is still someone that I could see making an impact with the D-backs this season, being a righty out the pen, come in high leverage moments and get some strikeouts, because he does have a nice little arsenal. And he is also someone that has been working on those tertiary pitches, trying to add more pitches to his arsenal. So I love the fact that all of these D-backs young pitchers are continuing to develop and get better throughout the offseason as we enter the regular season. Miguel Castro, he made an appearance to the surprise of no one. He gave up an earned run. Like I've been saying, if the D-backs do not get Miguel Castro off this roster after the first month of the season, it will spell trouble for the D-backs for the rest of the year. So they need to figure out what to do with Miguel Castro. Ryan Thompson, he only pitched 2/3 of an inning. Very clean baseball from Ryan Thompson. He continues to put up scoreless outings every time he comes out to pitch this spring training. We did see Kevin Ginkel, very clean inning from Kevin Ginkel. 1 inning, did give up and hit, but 3 strikeouts by Kevin Ginkel. Ginkel going to be so important to this D-backs team. He's always been considered a guy that has potential, but has struggled with command, has been up and down throughout his career, broke out in 2019, hasn't looked very good since until last season where he kind of rediscovered himself, and now he's set up to be potentially one of the best setup men in Major League Baseball, one of the best in his division. I think we're all super excited for what Kevin Ginkel can do this upcoming season. For once the D-backs have a couple of dudes in the back end of the bullpen where if you can get the ball to a Ginkel and a Sewald in the 8th and 9th inning, as a D-backs fan, for once you feel like the game might be over. So we love the prospects of Kevin Ginkel and what he can do for the D-backs this upcoming season. And then looking at the offense, Ketel Marte, again, continues to crush the ball. He got another hit, which might have dropped his average, I think, because he went 1 for 3. I think it did drop his average. His slash line now is only 455, 514, 636. And then Lourdes Gurriel, he continues to crush it. He has looked really good this spring training. He went 2 for 2. Rockets off the bat. One of his doubles or singles, or he had 2 doubles. I think one of them was like 107 off the bat or something. Like Gurriel was crushing the pitches in this game on Thursday. His slash line now in the season, 379, 406, 724. Gurriel is someone that we've talked about as potentially the number 3 hitter for the D-backs. That's what he was today. He was the number 3 hitter for the D-backs. You had Carroll, you had Marte, you had Gurriel, then you had Walker, Suarez, Thomas. Kind of like that D-backs lineup. I think obviously once you get to the regular season, it'll get a little bit deeper because I don't think Thomas will be hitting that high. We had Pavin Smith in this lineup, Emmanuel Rivera, Tucker Barnhart. But in terms of the top of that lineup, I don't mind a Carroll, Marte, Gurriel, Walker, and then Suarez top 5 if you want to mix it up like that. And then, Grichuk is maybe your number 6 hitter. And then you go with Geraldo Perdomo or whoever else I'm forgetting. as your number 7 hitter. I guess you won't go Perdomo as your number 7 hitter, but if you want to go Moreno as your number 7 and then go Alec Thomas as your 8, I don't really care, but the D-backs have options. I love seeing the depth in the lineup, and I do like Lourdes Gurriel as your number 3 hitter. To me, I think the number 3 hitter has to be Gurriel or Gabriel Moreno. I think they're both the 2 best options. I think they're the 2 best fits to be the number 3 hitter for the D-backs this upcoming season. So Thursday's game showed us some offense. Not really. D-backs put up a donut goose egg to the Kansas City Royals. They're now 7-13 this spring training. But again, we won't look too deep into the record. 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position on Thursday. We won't look too deep into it. We don't really care about the results. We care more about the process. And so far, everyone has told us the process is good for the D-backs right now. So we're not concerned about the record, and we're going to just keep chugging along until we get to the regular season. I want to talk about if the NL West is the best division in Major League Baseball. But of course, if you want to watch D-backs games this upcoming season, one place you can do that is Amazon Fire TV, because Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels that let you dive into all the game's analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all of the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/lockedonfiretv. And if you want to place any wagers on the D-backs to win the 2024 World Series, then the best place to do that is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, if you go on FanDuel and place a $5 bet and you win, you'll get back $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. It's the thing that drew me to the app, because that first bet, a lot of times with FanDuel, they give you, they try to help you out a lot of times with one of your first couple bets. They try to make it easy on you. So if you go on FanDuel, you hit that bet and you get all them bonus bets back. That's so much free money in your account that you can just use to multiply and put more money in your account. My favorite thing to do to multiply my money is the same game parlay. It's a great feature that FanDuel has. You can go on there. You can add a whole bunch of plays from a single game. My favorite thing to do, now that we're back in baseball season, I take my same game parlay. I put the D-backs money line in it. I put Corbin Carroll over on total bases. And I put Ketel Marte over on RBIs. That's a 3-leg parlay. That pays out at plus 300. I'm going to put some money down. And if you want to put some money down, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Go get them bonus bets. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right. Let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Let's discuss if the NL West is now the best and most competitive division in Major League Baseball, because, of course, we thought the Padres not going to take this season off, but we're like, you know what? Maybe it won't be championship or bust for the Padres this season. Maybe it won't be a make or break season for the Padres. Maybe they're not going to go all in on this year, but it seems like the Padres can't help themselves. As we discussed on yesterday's podcast, they traded for Dylan Cease from the Chicago White Sox. Guy is in his prime, late 20s, controllable for a couple more years. Pretty elite pitcher. Is going to be at the top of the Padres rotation with the lineup that they already had with the Tatises, the Bogarts, the Machados of the world, the rotation with the Musgroves, the Darvishes, and the Ceases. The Padres look like they're back and ready to be in the playoff postseason mix once again. Of course, you got the Dodgers at the top of the division with the $2 billion they spent this past offseason. D-backs coming off the World Series. The Giants always better than what you think that they're going to be because of what you see on paper. They always outperform expectations. Then the Rockies are the Rockies. But even with that being said, with those other four teams, does that make the NOS the best division in baseball? I think it honestly, the competition comes down to just two other divisions, and they're both in the East. The AL East and the NL East, I think, are the only two other divisions that can even compare to the NOS in terms of top to bottom competitiveness. And when doing this exercise, I think the two most important questions are how many World Series contenders do you have in your division, and how many number one pick contenders do you have in your division? When looking at both of these divisions, starting with the NL East, the NL East definitely has at least two teams that I think can win the World Series, but they also have a couple teams that I think could finish with the number one pick. The Braves, I think, are probably the best team in Major League Baseball, even over the LA Dodgers. They are stacked in that rotation. They traded for Chris Sale. They brought that lineup back, which didn't need any more additions, even though they just signed Adam Duvall, which was an insane pickup. I don't know how no one else picked him up all offseason. Philadelphia definitely has the team that can win the World Series with their offense, what they can do, thump and hit. They got the two frontline guys in Nola and Wheeler. The Marlins, I think, are the wild card in that division because they're a team that's coming off a pretty good season, but did they actually improve themselves? Maybe, maybe not. They added Tim Anderson, but they did let Jorge Soler walk. They might sign JD Martinez, so they're still a wait and see. The New York Mets, how are they going to respond to the season that they just had, where they went 75 and 87? The talent is not there as it was the last couple of years, where they went all in on the offseason. So where are they going to finish? The Nationals, I think, have some interesting young pieces, but they definitely don't have the talent to contend. So comparing the NL East to the NL West, the Braves, I think, are definitely as good as the Dodgers, so I'll cancel those two out. The Phillies and D-backs, even though the D-backs beat the Phillies, I'll cancel those two teams out. But then after that, I would say the Padres and the Giants are both on the same tier as the Marlins. I think all three of those teams are wild card teams that could be battling. And when I say wild card, I mean more like X factor teams in the division. They could go either way of making a wild card or missing out on the postseason. So I think the Marlins, the Padres, and Giants are three teams all on the same tier where you could tell me they win 86 games and make the wild card, or they win 79 games, or they win, they go 500 and just miss the postseason. I think those three teams are going to be right there battling for the postseason until the very day, and probably just going to miss out one, two, or all three of those teams. I don't know if it's possible for all three of those teams to miss out on the postseason, but definitely one of those teams will. And then we look at the bottom of the division. The Mets, I think, could finish in last place, but I also think there's a world where they make the playoffs. The Nationals will definitely miss the playoffs. And then the Rockies will definitely miss the playoffs as well. But I think the Mets, the Nationals, and Rockies are closer to the same tier. And because the NL East have more teams closer to the Rockies than to the Dodgers, I think I have to put the NL West over the NL East. I just think the Padres and Giants are ahead of the Mets and the Nationals and on the same tier as the Miami Marlins. So I just think the overall floor of the NL West compared to the NL East is just higher. Then when you look at the AL East, I mean, the question is, who's the best team in the AL East? It's either Baltimore or Tampa Bay most likely, but are either of those teams better than the LA Dodgers? I think the Boston Red Sox will probably be, this is what Javi said, the best, worst team of any division, because the Red Sox will probably be in last place and they will probably be the best last place team of any division. I will take the Red Sox over the Rockies, but the thing is with the AL East, it's a bunch of good teams to great teams, but no team that I'm fearful of. The Orioles, they won 101 games last year, but I'm not fearful of the Orioles. I know they traded for Corbin Burns, but I saw the D-backs take down Corbin Burns already in the postseason. I don't know if that team's ready for primetime just yet. I still feel like they're a year away. Tampa Bay, They always put together a good roster. They're always a good regular season team, won 99 games last year. But when you get to the postseason, I just don't think they're built for the playoffs. I think they're a regular season team. So I don't fear the Tampa Bay Rays. I would take the D-backs in a postseason series over Tampa Bay and Baltimore. Blue Jays, I think, are a dark horse team. They're basically my dark horse pick every single season. Then they lose in the wild card round of the MLB postseason. So I don't know how to feel about the Blue Jays. Garrett Cole is going to be out a couple months for the Yankees. Like the AL East, I think probably has the highest floor of any division in Major League Baseball, but I just don't think their ceiling is as high as the NL West. I think the Padres and Giants are probably as good as I think the Padres could be as good as the Yankees. I think they could be as good as potentially the Blue Jays. I think the Giants can also probably be right in that mix as well. I'll probably have the Giants slightly behind a team like the Padres in terms of how I view them. But again, the Giants always outperform expectations. So they will probably finish ahead of a team like the Boston Red Sox. And who knows, if Garrett Cole ends up being out for longer than 2 months, the Giants could end up with a better record than even the New York Yankees. So I think the AL East has a super high floor because I think every team in that division could finish at or around 500. Like I think every team in the AL East could win 80 games. The Rockies will win nowhere near 80 games, but I think the ceiling is so much higher in the NL West. I think there's more teams I could believe win the World Series than the AL East. So because of that, I think the NL West is the best division in Major League Baseball. Next, I want to give you guys an updated rotation ranking for the NL West post Dylan Cease trade. But if you guys want to make some money, one way to do that is by investing with Robinhood, because did you know that even if you have a 401k retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risks, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker dealer. All right. Let's get back into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, and let's give our updated rotation rankings for the NL West post Dylan Cease trade, because of course it got a lot tougher in the division. We thought the Padres were going to be done, but they're not, as they made a trade for Dylan Cease. Could they have signed Blake Snell? Yes, but Cease, 2 more years of control, younger than Blake Snell. And really, if you look at the numbers, he's basically righty Blake Snell. So I can't be too upset with what the Padres did. Smart move by them. I do love a team that always stays aggressive. That's why I can't get too upset with the philosophy of what the Padres do, because if you're going out there to try and win, I can't be upset at that. But did the Padres do enough to upgrade their rotation and make it leapfrog over the Arizona Diamondbacks? Well, let's talk about these rotation rankings. Again, as always, the Dodgers are number 1 guys. We know you got Yamamoto. He's a stud. You got Glasnow. He's a stud. Kershaw will eventually be back. So will Walker Buehler. You still got Bobby Miller. Like, your rotation should be the best. But to be honest, day one, I don't think the Dodgers would have the best rotation. Opening day, I don't know if the Dodgers have the best rotation. Glasnow's healthy, which is good. Yamamoto's healthy. Bobby Miller's there. But Their number 3 could be Bobby Miller. Maybe James Paxton starts in the rotation for the Dodgers. Like, I don't think the opening day roster or the opening day rotation for the Dodgers could be the best. Honestly, the D-backs or Padres could have a better opening day rotation by the end of the season. If you get Buehler back and you get Kershaw back for the postseason, yeah, Dodgers probably have the best rotation. But as it currently stands, Glasnow and Yamamoto are your frontline guys, and then Bobby Miller might be your number 3. I'll still give Dodgers best rotation, but definitely some risks and question marks with Kershaw and Buehler not going to be there for the start of the season. Glasnow being hurt for a lot of his career, and Yamamoto never pitching against major leaguers. I do think there's some question marks in that Dodgers rotation, and that rotation could be the part of that team that holds them back from potentially holding up the World Series trophy, but it's too far down the line to even start thinking about that. So for now, opening day rotation, I don't think it will be the best, but I think by game 162, the Dodgers will have the best rotation in the division. So they could be number 1 in my rankings right now. Number 2, though, either has to be the Padres or the D-backs. And talking with Javier Reyes of Locked On Padres yesterday, we were both kind of having the same thoughts, like Zach Gallen versus Dylan Cease. I think Gallen is better than Cease. When you look at the numbers for Dylan Cease, is 2022 a fluke? Like, he's been more north of 4 than south of 4 when we look at his major league career. But I think the advanced stats are really good to Dylan Cease. He, of course, gives up a lot of walks, but he's a strikeout machine. Like I said, he is basically the righty Blake Snell. And even if he is the righty Blake Snell, I don't think that guy is better than Zach Gallen. But even though Blake Snell or righty Blake Snell, even though they're both not better than Zach Gallen, I'm fine to call it a wash for now. Cease has finished second in Cy Young voting, which is something Gallen has never done, even though I think Gallen has been more consistent from the start of his career till now. Over a Dylan Cease, I'm fine saying those two are a wash. But how about your number 2 starter, Joe Musgrove versus Merrill Kelly? Again, Musgrove, I think, is a really good starter, but so is Merrill Kelly. I think Merrill Kelly is the best pitcher in Major League Baseball without accolades because he gets no Cy Young votes. He doesn't make the All-Star team, but he was a freaking rock for the D-backs the whole regular season and looked like a star pitcher in the postseason. So I would say it's a wash again. Musgrove, I think, has a bigger name value, and I do think Musgrove is a stud, a little bit younger than Merrill Kelly. So I would say Gallen and Merrill Kelly cancel out with Dylan Cease and with Joe Musgrove so far. And then we look at the back end rotation before we talk about the number 3 starter. We look at the back end rotation. Michael King, Johnny Brito potentially for the San Diego Padres. Meanwhile, it's Brandon Pfaadt and Ryan Nelson for the D-backs. I would say maybe the back end rotation for the Padres has slightly higher upside. Maybe Brandon Pfaadt. I mean, honestly, I'll rescind the statement I just said because I do think Michael King is good and he has been better than Brandon Pfaadt. But if we're talking about upside, I mean, Brandon Pfaadt actually has way more upside than Michael King. I think Johnny Brito could have more upside than a Ryan Nelson or Tommy Henry, whoever starts as the number 5 starter for the D-backs. But even with that being said, I think it's a wash between Pfaadt and Ryan Nelson versus Michael King and Johnny Brito. I think King and Brito do have upside, but also a lot of risk. Same with the D-backs back-end starters. Pfaadt could have a breakout season after seeing what he did in the postseason, or he can continue his 2023 regular season. He can really go either way. So I'm fine saying the number 4 and number 5 starters from the D-backs and Padres are both a wash. That's where you come down to the number 3 starter. Yu Darvish versus Erod. I think this is the matchup right here. I'll put D-backs as the number 2 rotation in the NL West because I think he is better than Yu Darvish at this point of their careers. Darvish is someone that is 37, 38 years old, coming off a down season. He looks like he's in the decline. He's been a guy that has battled through injuries throughout his career. I just don't know how much more Yu Darvish has in the tank. Obviously, when he's on his A game, his ceiling is that of a stud number 1 starter. But I think those days for Darvish could be behind him. Erod, he has also dealt with injuries, but his arm is a lot fresher than a Yu Darvish. He's only like 31 years old. So I would take Erod over Yu Darvish as the number 2 rotation in the NL West. Padres number 3. Then Giants, of course, number 4. Logan Webb is a stud. The rest of the rotation, a lot of question marks. Should get Robbie Ray back in the second half of the season, but still not good enough to vault you into that top 3. Then sadly, the Rockies, always the number 5 rotation in the NL West. Now that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back next week for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. Thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Deuces.